Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UCSF Family and Community Medicine Grand Rounds. Excited to have everyone here today. Today's session is a community grand rounds entitled Equitable Relationships for Equitable Health Outcomes, and I'm really excited to welcome our wonderful team for this important session. Just as a reminder, before we get started, today's session is recorded. If you'd like to review today's session or see any other grand rounds that you might have missed, you can check us out on the UCSF Family and Community Medicine website. And while you're there, you might want to take a look at information about the upcoming UCSF Family Medicine Annual Rodnick Colloquium, which is coming soon to us in May. We'll have a great opportunity to meet folks and hear about our collaborators across 11 different residency programs and from faculty, students, residents, community members. So we hope you can join us. There's more information on the website. As always, I want to thank our fantastic tech team. We have Benjamin Wallen, Arago, Mitchell, and Roy Johnston are helping us today. And if you have suggestions about today's grand rounds or any other grand rounds that you would be interested in hearing about, please fill out your evaluations. We take them very seriously. Roy will be putting them into the Q&A for you to fill out. And then last about the Q&A, we do hope to make this an interactive session. So if you have questions for our presenters today or just comments that you want to generally share, please use the Q&A to really enliven and enrich today's discussion by sharing your thoughts with us. So again, the title for today is Community Grand Rounds, Equitable Relationships for Equitable Health Outcomes. In today's Grand Rounds presentations, we're putting community voices front and center. Residents of the Tenderloin, which is San Francisco's most diverse neighborhood, and Dr. Monica Hahn will be in dialogue with each other and with you, discussing strategies for creating effective, supportive collaborations for institutional and structural change at UCSF. Our team today began this work in 2021 amidst the chaos of COVID and discovered in the process what it looks like to mutually honor the experiences of those struggling to access care and those juggling inequitable resources and burnout as we provide care. We will tell you, or today's group will tell you the history of this project and how it supports our work as a community and as healthcare advocates, and how you can find your place in similar communities and be part of being a change agent. Today's speakers, I'm excited to tell you a little bit about them. They'll tell you more about themselves. We have Siobhan Allen, part of the Skywalker Watchers Ensemble, a San Francisco artist in resident, who's a community leader whose creative talents bring light to the needs of community and uplift the talents of all. Sam Dennison from Faithful Fools is a Tenderloin resident and a community advocate who challenges UCSF to deepen community partnerships with unlikely allies for deep institutional change. Freddie Martin, a congregational life and community engagement manager at Glide Memorial, also part of Skywalker, wants to be here and share the depth of commitment that brings people together and knits community threads into vibrant patterns. And Dr. Monica Hahn, who's an associate professor in the Department of Family Medicine at UCSF, is a valued community member, collaborator, and part of the liaison between UCSF and the community residents, who helps UCSF open doors to otherwise unheard community voices. So I really want to thank our team for being here today and turn it over to them. Thank you.
We're gonna hold everybody. We're gonna hold everybody up. We're gonna hold everybody. We're gonna hold everybody up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Just because you look like you and I look like me doesn't mean we can't be friends. I'm not your enemy. We're gonna hold everybody. We're gonna hold everybody up. We're gonna hold everybody. We're gonna hold everybody up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Thank you. So if things go according to plan, nothing will be as business as usual. We would like to, I'm going to start off with a land acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge that this work is taking place on stolen land and occupied land, Yalamu. Everyone can say that with me if they like, Yalamu. Originally and still inhabited by the Ramaytush Ohlone people. This acknowledgement is meant as one step toward the honoring and repairing of our relationship with Indigenous people of this country. We understand that such repair is necessary and tied to our work for the care and acknowledgement of all marginalized people currently living in this neighborhood and in neighborhoods like this throughout our country and the world, who are displaced both physically and psychologically by the slow and fast violence of unbridled capitalism and systemic oppression. So I'd like everybody to, I know some of you are having lunch right now. So if you can just, we're gonna do a little grounding exercise that I do for myself and when I'm out in the community as a tool to just kind of get recalibrated. And if you wanna sit and just kind of soften your body and get in a comfortable pose, you don't have to close your eyes, but if you like to, that's okay too. And what the intention today is going to be a theme that's unstated, but it's care. If I can have you take a nice deep breath, receive the breath of the gift of life, receive the breath in, deep breath in, and then hold it, and then let it out. And what I would like your mind's eye to focus on is thinking about a time when you were cared for, when you were saturated in love. Thinking about what that feels like in your body, what it sounds like, what you feel like. And if you can't think of a time, you can just make up one because our brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. So thinking about that and then using your mind's eye to scan from the bottom of your feet while continuing to breathe, then on up. And if your eyes are closed when you get to the top of your head, I would like for you to imagine yourself feeling all of this love and care, saturation of care, and drawing a circle around yourself in your mind's eye, a nice circle. And in that circle, we'll send out love from our heart. And the wonderful thing about that is every direction we send it, we'll receive it back. Let's take a nice deep breath and feel all that love and care being returned to us. And then I ask you to draw one more circle. And this one is around community. You can think about who's in your community, who needs care in your community. Well, in this circle, you send it out one more time, and everybody's going to receive that love back. And that's our grounding exercise for today. And one thing I would like to leave you with is, this is not a question you have to answer, but asking yourself, how can I serve and contribute to a better world? And this is a question to empower, not to blame or find out who's wrong, but to empower. How can I contribute and better serve the world? Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you so much. So we are here to do community grand rounds. My name is Sam Dennison. I live and work in the Tenderloin. Grand rounds in its traditional form is often didactic, where we call in experts to teach us something, and it can be a passive experience. Community grand rounds, we change the learning environment so it's collaborative and engaged. All of us are involved in one way or another. and we view all of us as experts in our own right and in our own experience. We are about to watch a video that we often include videos within Community Grand Rounds. This particular video is to introduce you to the experience of what it is to be in Grand Rounds, to be listening to one another, whether we be community residents or medical professionals or students, nurses, other people who work in the context of healthcare. So Benjamin, I would, or Aragon, I'm not sure who, but who's ever got the button, I would say now's the time to play our video.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me cue it up.
My name is Freddie Martin. I am a skywatcher.
My name is Reginald Meadows.
So hi, my name is Kim.
Hi, my name is Rita Whitaker, also known as Proud Rita, rolling and walking in her wheelchair.
Hi, I'm Siobhan Allen, and I'm going to talk about my first and only son's birth. Couldn't feel my legs, and I said I was just under the impression that the anesthesia hadn't worn off, and they had some kind of a question look in their face, and they went out into the hallway.
Skywatchers is a community of artists connected to each other by life in the Tenderloin. Many Skywatchers have experienced medical trauma that can be traced directly to medical racism and classism.
Legs of the poor, dispensable parts from bodies and souls already thrown away.
We believe our stories will help doctors, administrators, and students critically reflect on racism and classism in their work and careers.
Had Dr. Bouvier looked at me as if I was his brother, his son, his father, or someone, his mother, someone that he really cared about, I would not have been treated and would not have had the consequences or the impact of his actions as I had.
In these presentations, community residents take their rightful place as experts in the harms they have experienced within the medical system.
With all this, you're not getting this and this. And I said, I had 2 instances where I felt like I might have died the last time I was dealing with y'all people. And I said, I don't feel safe around y'all. And I said, even getting simple care, I said, it's just being unprofessional. And y'all, I said, y'all can feel what you want, but I don't want to feel that by the person I'm being treated.
It's affected my whole life as a Black mother, as a Black woman. And now, as you say, I'm using my story as an example. I'm able to talk. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity, this platform, to be able to process and become more aware of some of the things, the struggles, the traumas, because I didn't realize a lot of that I was holding it in until I shared it.
I would like to propose or think about what is the next step after we tell a story of harm. Sometimes when we tell a story of harm, it doesn't change anything. So the question I have for you is, what is required for a story of harm to create a relationship or a change that will begin to repair the harm?
And, I wanted to add something that's really important about that. Not only was it the doctor, it was all the nurses were involved because they didn't say anything. And they watched them. They watched them do it. silence is violence.
So in this one, again, invite y'all to be really mindful of what comes up for y'all, particularly around discomfort, because I think it's really uncomfortable to be part of a system that caused harm and not have all the tools to fix it. But we do have some, and we can create more.
At least for me, it's like we see this all the time. And as a trainee, you're a witness to it. But like in no time in these like 4 years of med school has it ever been named so explicitly. And I think you can kind of feel crazy a lot of the time when you're working on these teams and you're just like, because everyone's so nice to you as a trainee, and you see them inflicting harm on patients, and sometimes you stick up for things and sometimes you're not sure if you can.
Throughout the year, I just became progressively more unhappy. Like I would come home, and even if I had a day where it was like my patients got better, I had this really deep-seated feeling of like, did I do more harm than good today by like being part of this system? Because you see it all, like once you see it, you can't unsee it. The word that really stuck out to me in that entire film was intuition, because in medicine, I feel like you're trained, your intuition's trained out of you. It's like you ask questions in this order. If you hear a patient respond in this way, then the next question you should ask is this thing. And it totally erases like everything that I've ever known about talking to a human being.
Heartwarming to be in this space, because something that's really resonated with me over the last year is the idea of storytelling as a tool, and not just collecting stories, but sharing stories. And you know, one of the pieces of advice I got kind of going into clerkship year was write down the stories of your patients and hold on to those. And I wrote down a few. I didn't write down as many as I'd like to, but one of the ones, or a few that stuck out to me the most, were simple things when patients weren't being listened to.
And I had the flu, but he just assumed. I was an African American woman, you know, my nose was running, it was a mess. I must be on crack. So if we can let go of assumptions, which is really hard for everybody, right? But if we cannot decide who people are, before talking to them and listening, I think that's huge, and that's just a human to human. Yeah, which I understand probably gets muddied, you know, when you're seeing so many patients in a day, you know, and you've got 5 more minutes now. So I get that, but you have to take that breath and see that other person. Yeah.
Sometimes just having the space and having a person that you know is listening, that in and of itself is therapeutic to be able to tell your story. Even if after this person receives your story, nothing else comes about it, it's just that there was a ministry of presence of somebody there to hear it. Sometimes that in and of itself is therapeutic, and I don't want to discount that. What I do hope is that through the ability to share stories when harm has occurred, that we can be able to interrogate where then in, not just in that interaction with that one person where you were harmed, and maybe the one other person that was doing the harming. I hope that we could have these opportunities where we can hear, like truly deeply listen to stories and figure out where along the way in all the different levels, where were their failures in the system? So where were their failures in the structures of the healthcare system? Where were their failures in interpersonal bias? Because not everything is just at the interpersonal level. I feel like sometimes we just focus so much on like implicit bias training for doctors, for instance, because there's harm that happens between doctors and patients, and really thinking on the level of social justice and social change and what we need. Like, we can't implicit bias our way out of systemic racism in medical care, right? And structural problems absolutely necessitate structural solutions.
You do not do this work alone. And I want to just say that again. You do not do this work alone. You don't treat a patient alone. The patient never comes to you alone. None of us are really alone. It's really, are we conscious of the people we're bringing with us? So one of the gifts you have here are 3 people who will be with you now forever in your career. And I encourage you, take them with you wherever you go in that internal space, and know that they care about you and they are impressed by you and they want you to be your best self. Carry them with you. I invite you to take a deep breath and just think about one sentence or one sentiment that you picked up from that video that you will carry with you. We started this project back in 2021 as the second year of COVID was beginning. When COVID began here in the Tenderloin, we experienced chaos that the rest of the city did not experience. In the rest of the city, you could walk down the streets and it was very quiet. People were indoors. Maybe people were walking occasionally, but they were very distanced from each other. Here where I live in the Tenderloin, we went from having 1 tent on our street to having 18, and having maybe a dozen or 2 dozen people hanging about during the day to having literally hundreds of people here. The city had let people go from the shelters, had discharged people from the prisons, and the only place that they were really allowed to go was here in the Tenderloin. So we experienced incredible crowding when we were told that we should be social distancing. And that began a kind of crisis for us. And in the midst of that crisis, members of the UCSF community came to us, medical students in particular, whose classes were no longer meeting because they couldn't meet in person, as well as faculty and staff, and they said, what can we do to help? And they were incredible. They brought hand sanitizer, water, tents, masks, food, you name it, we asked for it, and they would just say yes, and they showed up with it. But as that year went on, one of our dear community members, a member of the Skywatchers ensemble, passed away. And he really passed away because he never got quite the care that he needed at the General. There were many kind people there who worked with him, but it was clear that he just wasn't getting what he needed. And his story hit all of us. The UCSF community and the Tenderloin community, who had been meeting weekly, we listened to the story of Dino and we thought, we need to share this story a lot more. And as we started talking about Dino's story, we realized there were so many other stories. So Skywatchers and Faithful Fools, but primarily Skywatchers, began the process of collecting video testimony, sitting down and talking with Freddie, sitting down and talking with Siobhan and many, many others to collect their stories of when they had been experienced harm within the system, either due to neglect or blatant racism or transphobia, heterosexual gender dynamics, whatever it was, we documented their stories and we began to put them together in these panels to do in the context of grand rounds. And as we started to do grand rounds with different communities within UCSF, one of the things we realized was how much our friends and allies within UCSF were experiencing similar levels of trauma and struggle, that the system as a whole was damaging everyone in a way, and that what we were not able to do was to create the kinds of changes that we wanted to. And then we had the incredible gift of Dr. Kamara Jones being at UCSF as a visiting lecturer. And one of the things that she taught us was how important it is to have relationships that grow and extend from within UCSF to the community and back again. And that by having those relationships grow, we literally create larger and larger gaps in the walls of the institution that allow room for liberation and room for structural change, because those walls can't tolerate having that many relationships go back and forth without creating change. So that's what Community Grand Rounds has been about, is creating those relationships. Sometimes we do it through mutual storytelling. Sometimes we do it through doing these panels together. And I just want to say we have found some tremendous allies at the Center for Community Engagement, over at the General and the Trauma Surgery Department, in Family and Community Medicine. Dr. Megan Mahoney, we have so many thanks to offer you in so many different ways for supporting this work. It really is an extraordinary body of work that we're developing. And we are working towards offering it to as many different places as we possibly can. And one of those that we'll tell you a little bit more about in detail later is we will be at the Rodnick Colloquium as a full hour-long workshop. And we're hoping to be able to do this in the engaged fashion that we're used to doing it, rather than just talking with you and at you via Zoom. I wanted to invite Siobhan and Freddie to introduce themselves a little bit, and especially Siobhan, if you wouldn't mind telling us more about Skywatchers and how it's a reflection of your experiences of community and connection.
Yes, thank you, Sam. So I am part of Skywatchers. I came in as an ensemble member, and now I'm a lead artist of community care. And Skywatchers is a community arts performance group, and but not just that. It's, you know, our premise is that you know, conversational. We're about having meeting on a regular basis, being in the community at a regular location. And we come together like once a week, and we talk about things that are going on in our lives, and we build trust over time. And it's very important space for people, because many of us have lived in, you know, had very complicated, traumatic lives, and being able to come into a space, especially coming from, many of us come from the SROs, single room occupancies, and we suffer oftentimes from, you know, neglect and the pandemic of loneliness. So these relationships are very important. And when I say relationships, I know when through some of these very intimate conversations, I get to know when someone, you know, how when they've had a bad day because they've missed a court date, or they didn't get the paperwork in, or housing is not an issue, or even the joys, you know, and it's a place where we learn through listening to one another and holding each other's stories deeply, how we are connected to one another, because change doesn't happen when you don't care about it, you know, each other. And so it's a place where we commit, we learn about things that are going on in our community through conversations, talking, and also through working with, collaborating with some of our community partners. And we're very involved in a lot of organizing in the community. And I think that's about it for now.
Thanks. And Freddie, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sam and Siobhan. My name is Freddie Martin, and I'm the Congregational Life and Community Engagement Manager at Glide Memorial Church. However, when I was first introduced to Skywatchers, it was actually through Glide. I saw an announcement about an artist group and like a community group, and I was like, oh, this is my chance. This is my way to get back into creative performing arts. And so I went to a series of workshops that they had, and just and that was about 2017 or 18. And just fast forwarding, the process that we have there for most things, or any work that's created, or any art that's created, or performance pieces, is we have conversations. Like Siobhan was saying, we talk about things that are happening in our immediate environments, in our community, in our lives, in our bodies. And so there was a part where we were talking about racism and harms that are done, and people, whether people believe you or not, and being truth tellers. So we were sharing some things, and I was asked to be a part of this and share my story. So we went to Sam's beautiful building, the purple building, with at Faithful Fools, and did these recordings. I had not talked about some of the past medical harms that had happened to me in quite some time. So it was very, it brought back a lot of memories. And I realized that there was so much more trauma that was still there, that I was holding in my body and in my spirit and in my mind. But I'll just say, as a native African American man, my body has always been a target because of my skin color, because of my background, because of who I am. In so many ways, and we all know this, the systemically anti-Black racist system that we're a part of has not cared about our health, my health, Siobhan's health, or well-being, nor have they cared about my sustenance, only when it benefits them, or when it benefits the capitalist system in some way. So when I had this opportunity to talk about this, things that deeply affected me, I focused on one story because there were several. But the reality is that that thing should have not happened. It said something about that individual, but it was really important for me to be able to share that, and to share it with the doctors and the healthcare providers in my community, to bring light to that, and to bring truth to it, and see what we could do together, to bring about some sort of change within the system.
Thank you, Freddie. Thank you. And we also have Monica Hahn with us, who has been with us in this journey pretty much from the beginning, and has really, well, I would just invite you, Monica, to talk about what it's meant for you as both an MD, but also as a member of our community, to do this project.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sam. And hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Monica Hahn. I use she, her pronouns. And as Margot mentioned, I'm a family and community medicine faculty here at UCSF. And my clinical practices are primarily at SF General Hospital. And it's just been such an honor to be a part of this pilot project for the past several years. And really, my background prior to medical training was in ethnic studies and in community-based participatory research, and as a community organizer. So I definitely see my role as striving to be a connector, and to really activate for social justice in all I do, whether that's in patient care, in building capacity for HIV programs, or in being a medical educator. And as my co-presenters have so eloquently mentioned, really, yeah, Community Grand Rounds has been so much more than a project. It's really been like a labor of love. It's been a circle of deeply trusting relationships and friendships. And to me, often feels like an entire social change movement when we're together, and where I feel we really deeply care for one another and are in solidarity with each other. And for me, just being aware of my positionality, especially as a physician, it really is a significant community accountability circle for me in my professional and personal growth. You know, and as folks were sharing before, I was reflecting on how we first came into this project from a deeply, you know, troubled space. I'd say as healthcare providers during the COVID pandemic in 2020, you know, the pandemic was really highlighting to the world the horrific health inequities resulting from longstanding and deeply rooted systems of oppression. And we were finally being able to have some long overdue, meaningful discussions about structural racism and reckoning with how our healthcare systems have consistently failed marginalized communities and consistently devalued, silenced, and excluded minoritized and marginalized communities from adequate healthcare and from key decision-making processes. And, you know, I was just kind of sitting with this very uncomfortable acknowledgement for me and my colleagues that as healthcare workers, no matter how nice we are as people, no matter how good our intentions are, we are absolutely at risk of being complicit in perpetuating medical harm and biases rooted in medical oppression every day, unless we're actively and intentionally fighting to interrupt it. So really coming from that perspective, I was really searching for accountability partners and also for models of healing and restorative justice frameworks that truly center, uplift, and amplify community expertise and people with lived experience and the holders of these powerful stories, and to honor that expertise as much as we honor other, you know, academic scholars on health equity. And yeah, a question that kept coming up was, you know, what is the way that we can build trustworthiness with patients and communities that have been consistently harmed and continue to be harmed by our healthcare institutions? And so Community Grand Rounds was really the space that we created where I felt like we could really have these honest and deep discussions and create change from there. And for me, it really became a transformative learning space where I could really lean into interrogating, especially my privileged identities as a physician in the system. Because I think, especially for those of us who are in healthcare and we hold several intersectional marginalized identities, and we've had our own share of traumatic experiences as patients and you know, in our own medical training, I think it's easier to identify and name all the ways harm shows up for us and our communities. But I've learned that it's actually extremely important and harder really to really examine and like introspect and like examine the power and responsibility that comes with our privileged identities in these spaces. And I know that in my position and status as a UCSF, you know, physician on this team, I know I hold immense privilege, and that especially in these partnerships, I need to be hyper aware of that and be activated to use every opportunity to leverage that privilege. And so, you know, briefly, I want to just say that like often I've reflected a lot about the times I've sat in circle with my amazing partners here and think about how I so wish that my medical education training, that I could have had a safe and brave space to process the trauma I was bearing witness to. So that's definitely a commitment that I have to myself and to my mentees now as a medical educator. I feel a deep commitment to making things better for all the trainees that come after me. And, you know, through this partnership, we were able to pilot several Community Grand Rounds sessions over the past few years for the Prime US Medical Student Capstone course that I teach every year, which is called Dismantling Systems of Oppression, Building Critical Consciousness and Liberatory Practice or Praxis in Medicine. And the footage from the video that was just shown earlier was actually filmed during our pilot sessions during that course. We piloted 2 3-hour sessions and also spent time at Faithful Fools in the Purple Building, also walking around the community with Siobhan, with the students. And our hope was really for our students to get a chance to have this transformative learning experience, to offer space to debrief the many dehumanizing moments that come up in medical training, because we truly believe that you can't learn how to be a humanistic and compassionate healthcare provider through just studying and memorizing facts in medical textbooks alone, right? Like experiential learning outside the lecture hall is so powerful. Spending the day immersing yourself as a student, walking around the Tenderloin with Siobhan, hearing stories from Tenderloin residents and debriefing in circle. These are truly transformative experiences that you cannot just read in a book or learn in a lecture. This is liberatory pedagogy and critical consciousness raising in action. It's iterative, it's lifelong learning praxis. And so I'll just end by saying my hope and invitation is that everyone who participates in these sessions feels a sense of community accountability and collective care and feels moved to action. And we hope that learners can be moved at the personal level by listening to stories, and then through critical reflection and dialogue, be moved to make systems change and culture change. And so I know that that has happened for me and my students, and it's been so important for our growth and development as health professionals. And as a believer in collective liberation, I truly believe that being in community and holding circle together is a way we collectively get free. So thank you. Thanks for letting me share my perspective.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm wondering, Freddie or Siobhan, would you like to share? I mean, Monica's talked about her hopes for what comes from this. I've talked about some of my hopes. What are your hopes for your involvement in community grand rounds? What changes do you hope to see, and what do you hope to experience?
Well,
Change it. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Freddie.
No, ladies first. You were going to speak.
Well, I was just thinking that, being part of the community grand rounds, the person that you see here before you today, the first time I ever revealed my story, being the trauma that I experienced being a healthy woman, and then coming out with being paralyzed and a new mother, I held that deep down inside of me, and not until and I think I had some feelings about the medical industry, and just not being on the outside and not having a voice, and not feeling confident to be in certain spaces and voice what was going on with me. But my experience, I'd like to say that being in community with Sam and Dr. Hahn and other medical professionals, I began to understand, learn the value of what my experience was, and that it wasn't in vain. And not only that, I was able to kind of connect the fact that that a lot of, I'm not, my people did not immigrate here. I was, there's a difference between being forced to migrate here, forced immigration, kidnapping, and then the whole enslavement, and being considered 3/5 of a person, and carrying that within me, and all the harms and the traumas that other Black women have traditionally, historically faced, and being able to connect that history with the things that I experienced, and being able to witness other women in the community. And it's very important for me to learn to use my experience, the things that I learn, and the stories that I hear in the community, to be able to hold those stories. And I believe that I'm a healer as well, that we're doing your healing inside of inside of the medical industry. I'm on the streets as a healer and holding stories, and that when we work together, I hope that that the shame of not seeing or acting becomes greater than the fear of doing something different, and that partnerships will be formed, and that we can follow Sam and Dr. Hahn and Freddie. These are visionaries, people who had the sight to see something different and want to do something different, and have the courage to do so. And then other people have been able to follow along like myself. And I know that I'm in the midst of friends.
Yeah. Freddie, how about you?
Well, that's amazing, Siobhan, what you just said, and Monica. I feel similar. I think that the first, it is about building relationships, and I think everyone's spoken on that so far. It's about building relationships for a specific purpose and specific reasons. So I want to continue to be a part of that. What I would like to see come out of this, it's already happening in some ways, like doing this, but for it to expand, and for more people to get involved, for more community experts and patients and people who are in the healthcare system to get involved and hear these stories. This is a powerful medium, especially in this day and age, using the arts and using the community, using video, using these forums to create that relationship and understanding and trust, which can then create the change that we want to see. I've said this from the beginning. I was very intentional. I want I want healthcare providers to humanize us, to see us as family, to see us as people that they care about. Treat us like you would want to be treated, or you would want your family member or your dearest loved one to be treated. I want equity. I want justice. You know, there was even talk about, you know, at one point maybe being able to talk to the doctor. I never got an apology. I never got any resolution. I never got any acknowledgement from what was done to me and the harm that it created to my life and my body. I didn't get any resolution. So this is a way to do that for people that may be going through it now or may be able to get that. That's one of the things that I want to see come out of it. But more importantly, I want to see you all, the doctors that are practicing now, the students, the residents, whatever the language is that you all use for that. I picked up on some, I just can't remember right now. But you know, I want I want you all to be able to understand the true scope of the power that you have and how you use that power and what place it is that you're coming from. Because as a patient or a community member who's coming, I'm coming to you, I'm coming to your hospital to get healed, to get well, to get made whole, or to get better. And that is, you know, I think that can most likely happen, and it has a better chance of happening if you see me or if you see us as equals, so that some of these things that have happened in the past or to us and these harms that have been done don't continue to happen to future generations. So that would be the thing for me. That would be like the most important thing. And to see what you do with this, like how you act. I'm just going to say really quick, I know we're running out of time, or do I not have time? I'll shut up.
You're good.
I will say this. Now, I'm going to brag on myself a little bit. I don't do this often. But from this, one of the doctors, she'd been practicing for a while, saw a presentation that we did as part of this amazing community grand rounds, this new thing. She saw and heard what I was saying about patient empowerment and the things that I had to go through to learn how to have a better relationship with my doctor and understand that it is a relationship, just like any other relationship. And if things aren't right, or if I need things, it's important for me to communicate that. So there were just tools that I had learned. So I shared this. And from that, she connected me with someone else at UCSF. I think it's in the health and learning or education department. And I got funded. We got funding together. Me and the healthcare providers got funding to create this pilot program to empower patients, to learn strategies and tools as to have a better relationship with their doctor, things to ask, things to, boundaries to set or whatever. But I've been able to do that. And so when I look at you all who are on the inside, who are doing this every day, it's like, oh my God, if you all were to do like what Monica is doing and Sam and Siobhan with Skywatchers, I mean, just imagine how many people can be reached and how many people can be healed and how much can be changed. That's it.
Oh, thank you, Freddie. That like really brings us to that key point, right? That what this project ultimately is about is bringing those of us who aren't day in and day out inside UCSF into relationship with people who are day in and day out inside UCSF, and really making structural changes. We develop the relationships. We speak about our truths, whether it's the truth of what it is to feel frightened as a patient or to feel burnt out and exhausted as a provider, and be able to say what has to be different and how do we make those differences happen. And that's where, when we do our work, we often, and you heard this in the video, just say, never go into a decision-making space alone. Whether it is Freddie who is developing a program at Glide, or it's you who are going to make decisions about how X, Y, or Z is going to happen at a clinic, you should never make those decisions without taking someone from the other place with you. That is, Freddie needs to have healthcare providers who go with him, either in his heart or actually by his side as Glide is developing programs. And you need to have one of us or one of the many other people who are community experts with the Community Grand Rounds project, or maybe somebody from your family, maybe somebody from your old neighborhood. It doesn't have to be, from the Tenderloin, but someone who is outside of your day in, day out medical life, who will remind you what it is to make decisions with us in mind, because then those decisions will be just by definition different. And maybe they will slow down a little bit. Maybe they will pay a little bit more attention to what accessibility really means, or what it means to resist. Because I also know that you have constraints that you want to resist. And sometimes you need to know that Siobhan is right there with you, holding everybody up, right? And you need Freddie with you, reminding you that we are your family, right? So I think we're almost out of time. I want us to take one more moment to follow the practice that I think all of us should learn, but we certainly do this a lot here at the Purple Building at Faithful Fools, is we start with a song or with a moment of quiet to bring ourselves into the space. And then we also come to a conclusion, not with a sudden stop, oh, we've got to go, but by taking a breath and giving ourselves a chance to remember the people we've just spent the hour with. In my case, it's very much with Siobhan and Freddie and with Monica, but also with Roy and the others who have supported this program, Megan and Margot. And then in addition to that, I try and remember what is the strongest piece of wisdom that I'm carrying forward. And I would encourage you just to remember what you've heard, or even what arose for you in your heart and in your mind. What were you reminded of as you listened to us, as you watched the video? And then finally, I want to remind you that we will be together again at the Rodnick Colloquium. I encourage you to come and join us when we do our community grand rounds there. But we can also do this pretty much anytime, anywhere. So if you've got a clinic where you'd like us to come and spend time with you, if you're teaching a class, if you're working with residents, we are available. So you can get in touch with us through Monica or through Megan or through whoever else. So one more deep breath and then we will carry ourselves out. Is that all right? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for holding this space. It's great to be in space with you all.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you all.
Now, this is kind of one of those awkward silences. Do I click off?